helpful to know that has been seen on the test. ComNav Surf Pack Inst 6000.1 shipboard medical procedures. It summarizes the requirements for developing and maintaining a viable repair capability. The OpNav Inst 4790.4 Foxtrot is the ship's maintenance and material management, or 3M system policy. And that provides efficient and uniform methods for conducting and recording maintenance. Have any of you guys done 3M?
It's terrible.
It is absolutely terrible because it is so uniform, and ships don't ever stay the same after they go through maintenance periods. It's terrible. Potable water tanks are super fun to try to go off of the 3M manual. It's great. NAVC instruction 4790.8 Charlie is ship's maintenance and material management manual, and it provides simple and standard means for performing maintenance on all shipboard systems and equipment. If I go too fast and you guys are taking notes, just yell at me, okay? I see some people still writing, so I'll wait. Good to go? So your 3M system, your primary objective is manage shipboard maintenance in a manner that will result in maximum equipment and system operational readiness. Clearly, things on ships need maintenance. Everything needs maintenance, right? PMS, that acronym you should know because that's been seen on a lot of tests. Maintenance data system, I don't remember seeing it, but if anybody has, let me know. But planned maintenance system's definitely on there. And there's 3 different types of maintenance. There's preventive, corrective, and alternative. I would know those definitions. So preventive is obviously to prevent failures in the future, right? Corrective is if a piece of equipment has failed and you need to correct it. And alternative is like an authorized change or modification that's happened, that's been pushed out, that you now need to go back and do the maintenance for. Because they like to update unnecessarily sometimes. The 3M system.
It has to be a 3/8 of hit number 20. Right.
Yes, all the things. All right, ship maintenance or ship main modernization entitled process, or EP. I have personally never seen any of this. So categories, maybe fleet TICOM alterations and program alterations. I can see that being a test question. Maybe. Like what 2 categories of ship main processes are there, right? Or that might be a thing. Maybe data environment, web-enabled database used to submit ship change documents. I would know that. That sounds like a really good test question. It's nav systems command. So change the S on this right here to an N if you're taking notes. Naval Sea Systems Command. Afloat Master Planning Systems, or AMPS, captures all logistical data for ship's alterations and ensures appropriate SME or subject matter expert, right, are given the proper levels of review and approval. And then your ILS is your Integrated Logistics Support. And I've seen this one. I think I saw it on my chief's exam, though, I'm not going to lie. But ILS details structure, electrical parts, hotel services, training requirements, human system integration, and parts and maintenance requirements for all aspects of alterations. And that is it for chapter 4.
Chapter 8?
Yep. Chapter 8 or section 8 is accounting of equipment. This one is a big subject, a big topic. There are a lot of test questions that come from this chapter. So equipment is identified in the DIML system as accountable by assigning an accountable equipment code, or AEC, and on your test it will probably be abbreviated as AEC, so know what that stands for, and it's just a Y, which makes sense, right? Like, it's accounted for? Yes. A lot of the test questions are going to be the easiest answer, and you're going to be like, there's no way it's that easy. It actually is. Don't second guess yourself. Go with the easy answer. Accountable records will be maintained in the DIMLs for all personal property having an acquisition cost of $5,000 or more. I've seen that on the exam as well. So personal property has to be accounted for with accountable records if it costs $5,000 or more. Personal property manager is PPM.
That's where that responsibility thing comes into play too, right? For a test question, they're going to say, who's responsible for issuing custody receipts, maintaining and updating consolidated listing of all personnel, and issuing to custodians?
That's your PPM. Consolidated inventory list will be updated at least annually. That is a test question. Or within 20 days prior to change of custodian or RO. And then 2 copies of the updated inventory list of equipment will be prepared. So anytime it asks you, or anytime you see something like this person's responsible for, there's a date given, like a 20 days or the 15th of February or anything like that, those are things that you should definitely highlight. And then anything that's like 2 copies have to be made or 4 copies have to be made, things like that. Those are all things to note because they're telling you that for a very specific reason, and it's an easy test question.
So I want to make this make sense to y'all in real time, right? For custodians, right? So what this is talking about, say you're a department head, you have a new department head that's about to come into the department and take over, right? The old department head is technically the custodian of all that equipment, right? So within 20 days of that new department head taking over, they have to go line item by line item to make sure all equipment is accounted for.
You guys have all been through that, right?
So if not, then you have to fill out a DD-200 that you lost some equipment or was stolen, right? So that's what it's saying is anything that has $5,000 or more is on this equipment sheet that you've seen produced by your supply department, right? And then that OIC, our department head, has total responsibility for all equipment within his area. And has to tell the CEO if he lost something, and that's why we have to have those wall-to-wall inventories that happen every year.
We'll talk about what you're going to submit that on if you do find equipment that's lost in like another slide or 2. You good? Okay. All right. So property, plant, and equipment, or PP&E identification, is a unique numeric identifier that shall be assigned to all PP&E items within 7 days of receipt. So within 7 days of receiving a piece of equipment, you have to have a unique identification number, right? And that's usually your UIC and your ECN together, and that's what gets put into DIMLs. And then when you search your equipment in DIMLs, that's the number that you're looking for. And all equipment assigned to BSO 18 activities shall be used, or DIMLs shall be used for all equipment assigned to BSO 18. So the hospital and all of its sub-clinics and etc. commands are BSO 18 activities. It's all shore duty. So barcode numbers are assigned to capital, minor, and other accountable property. So that's not your personal property that's $5,000 or more, right? That's all the other stuff. That's permanent, not like tongue depressors. Okay.
And we'll go over the prices of that when we go over chapter 5 in the core manual, where it talks about what the dollar amount is for capital and minor.
PP&E shall be barcoded and entered into DIMLs, again, within 7 calendar days. So that's pretty easy. Once a piece of equipment comes in, no matter how much it costs, they have 7 calendar days to assign it a number and get it into DIMLs. Leased equipment valued at $5,000 or greater, like we lease a lot of our lab analyzers and things like that. They shall be affixed with a barcode in a manner that will not damage the equipment, because of course we give it back and they give us a new one when the life cycle's up, right? But it still has to have a barcode number within 7 days and put into DIMLs.
If I'm making a test and I want to mess with you, I'm probably going to make you have to think between the 7 days and the 20 days, right? So what happens at 20 days again, within 20 days? Consolidated inventory list must be updated annually or within 20 days prior to change of custodian, right? 20 days prior to change of custodian.
So that's not receiving in anything.
Nope.
That's just annually, and then when the department head changes, or the OIC changes, or whoever you have, right? And then the rest of it is, once it's received in, initially, you got 7 days. Give it a number and put it in DIMLs. Cool. The CO has overall responsibility. The CO has overall responsibility for the establishment and maintenance of the official financial property records. So that's the records themselves. I mean, the CO has overall responsibility over the equipment too, right? But like the record keeping process is the CO's responsibility. They also shall appoint a personal property manager or equipment manager, so a PPM, establish and maintain the official financial equipment records, coordinate the compilation of data in connection with the physical inventory of personal property, maintain internal controls to assure accuracy of records and property charges. Property charge, I think it's charges. Assure that personal property, regardless of class, is identified and properly reported. EMPPM responsibility is to ensure that DD Form 200 is initiated by the custodian or RO responsible for missing equipment. So who initiates a DD 200?
The custodian.
The custodian, like the department head or OIC, or right, the person that is in charge of the equipment itself inside that department is the person that initiates the DD Form 200. I've seen that as a test question. Who initiates a DD Form 200? The other question that is always surrounding this, and you're going to see this again in just a little bit, is what form is submitted when a piece of equipment goes missing? I mean, you can word that part of it any way you want, but if a piece of equipment goes missing, what form is submitted? The DD Form 200.
Just in case it's spelled out, RO is responsible officer.
Right.
I
Sorry, I didn't say that out loud.
Haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure if someone wants to mess with us.
PPM's usually on there. I don't know if RO. I don't know if I've ever seen it on the test either. But yeah. So if an item cannot be found within 30 days, so we have 20 days of changing of department head or RO or responsible person, right? Then we have 7 days receiving in equipment. And then if we're like, oh shit, I don't know where this went, we're doing our equipment inventory, crap, let's search, I don't know, all of the other branch clinics because we may have loaned it to somebody and didn't do the proper paperwork. Crap, we still can't find it. After 30 days, you have to submit a DD Form 200 if you still can't find it. So within 30 days. You have exactly 30 days from doing your equipment inventory to submit a DD Form 200 if you cannot find a piece of equipment that's worth $5,000 or more.
Quick tip for y'all so you don't run into any problems, because I'll tell you where the problems come in, especially at a place like this. Somebody wants to borrow a piece of equipment from you at a clinic, right? Sometimes people don't fill out paperwork when they just go let somebody borrow a piece of equipment.
Nope.
If you simply put it on a DD 1149 with the ECN of that actual item, and it's them signing off that they took ownership of it, if somehow that they never give it back, now it's more onus on them for not returning that piece of equipment you loaned out when you have physical documentation that you gave it to this member.
Who in here has never heard of an 1149? Okay, to explain that just briefly, because it's not in this section, an 1149 is an equipment request form. So it's basically what you're filling out to say, hey, I'm requesting this piece of equipment be at this location with your name and who is the RO or who is the custodian of this piece of equipment, right? So the department head's name goes on it, all that good stuff. It gets routed through the chain of command. And if it is a transfer of equipment, you're putting on there, it's coming from this location and moving to this location. Okay? So an 1149 is super helpful. You can fill it out for all kinds of things to request equipment. It's either an equipment transfer or it can be like a piece of equipment from supply.
For a total transfer, usually I do a 1348 because that's a hand receipt. So
Yeah.
that says you list everything including the ECN, and then you sign it, they sign it, they get a copy, you get a copy, and it goes in your equipment manager.
So we do the 1149 for temporary transfers of equipment. I apologize, I should have said that too. For temporary. I just did one the other day because we had to transfer a centrifuge from one clinic to another. But it's a temporary thing and we're moving it back. So, but yeah, we did an 1149 for that. So 30 days, equipment lost, DD form 200. I've never seen any of this. ViewMed activities are responsible for conducting physical inventories and reconciliation of records of all classes of personal property. Physical inventory accuracy should be at least 98%. So we could kind of be missing some shit. But that's where the DD Form 200 comes into play, right? That is what's going to fix that 98% to be like, yeah, we lost some stuff, it's not completely accurate, but here's a DD Form 200 to fix those discrepancies.
Keep that 98% number in your head too. When we go over the supply chapter and core manual, there's other percentages that are very similar. They can mix you up. I'm pretty sure 95% is like the accuracy for like location surveys or something like that, right?
We'll go into that when we actually hit the Corman manual. So
correct.
Remember where you're at with this. Physical inventory accuracy of personal property. Personal property is worth how much? $5,000 or more, and it should be 98% accurate. Replacement facilities, a wall-to-wall equipment inventory is required for replacement facilities. That's if you are completely moving into a new facility, right? You have to do a wall-to-wall. Walkthrough inspections should be conducted quarterly, at least quarterly, and to meet that, a sampling of at least 10% of the equipment monthly, depending on the PPM staffing level. So, do you see how that sounds wishy-washy? It's like, it can be done, but it kind of depends on some shit. There's probably not, I apologize for my language. If I offend anybody, please let me know. So, they all know me, so that's why they're all laughing. I've been very mild today, so. But yeah, so if you see like the wishy-washy stuff, it's probably not a very good test question. Your test question on here is going to be, should be conducted at least quarterly for your walkthrough inspection. I've seen the 10% sampling on there, but it doesn't say anything about PPM staffing levels. It doesn't say any of the weird stuff. But 10% is a sampling, and you can do 10% monthly to equal the quarterly walkthrough requirement.
Easy way to remember that is just, you usually have PM checks. You have a piece of equipment that has to, a lot of them fall in that monthly range. So you're just checking once a month that a piece of equipment needs its PM re-up, and then you're going through and accounting for that 10% with your biomed tech.
Just for practical purposes, for those of you who aren't privy, they actually do that here at the hospital. They have an equipment list come out every month, and it does amount to about 10% of all equipment.
Okay. Nice. The other part of that portion for walkthrough inspections, the paperwork has to be kept for 3 years. Most things are 2 years or 3 years. So if you have both 2 and 3 on there, at least you're narrowing it down, you know, to one of 2 answers. But for this, it's 3 years is how long you're going to keep the paperwork. We're getting super behind schedule. So triennial inventory, NavMed LogCom will coordinate the inventory process. ViewMed will provide additional guidance by letter. So Triennial inventory. So every 3 years, NavMed.logcom will coordinate the inventory process, and BuMed gives us the letter to guide us in that triennial inventory. Accounting for lost or damaged property, we've beat this horse to death, I think. It's the DD Form 200. Must be filed within 30 days of discovery of loss. And to make it even more fun, it's not just lost, it's also damaged or destroyed. So if it's damaged beyond usability or destroyed, for whatever reason, DD Form 200, because it kind of equals a loss, right? It's a loss of capability. Loan and transfer of equipment. So loaned equipment must be recorded in DIMLs to assist in tracking. That's what we were talking about if we borrow equipment from somebody. You still have to move it in the DIML system to fall under the correct location. So if we're looking for it, we know where to find it. Doesn't always happen. Inter and intra-hospital loans, personal property, may be loaned among wards, services, or clinics, right? Intra-hospital loans may be made for up to 60 days. So if you're going to do an intra-hospital loan, it's 60 days. I've never seen that on the test, but maybe it's been on there more recently. And this is what HM2 Hyde was talking about. Use the DD Form 1348 Tech 1 Alpha. Have you ever seen that on the test, Hyde?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So use the DD Form 1348 Tech 1 Alpha to document interactivity loans and transfers. The 1149 is an acquisition request and a hand receipt. And the 1348 Tech 1 Alpha is to actually do the interdepartmental transfer. Lateral transfer of equipment defined as the transfer of custody from BuMed activity to another BuMed activity. And that's called a lateral transfer of equipment. So from one BuMed place to another, from here to Bethesda, here to Mayport, whatever. Termination of accountability, proper substantiating documentation must be retained for 36 months. So how long is that? 3 years. Make it complicated. Say 3 years on one line and 36 months on the other line. Same thing. Good to go? Any questions? And do we have chapter 15?
Do we want to just go over that later on if we're going behind? Yeah, let's do that. I'll go over chapter 15 with y'all later.
Nellie's gone for the next topic. Are you teaching it?
Yeah, I'll teach it.
Deployment health assessment process?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll catch us back up to speed. Gucci.
No, you're fine.